With one of his hands, he touches the hamburger and realizes that everything is very cold. A thought starts forming in his mind. Suddenly, the girl opens the door of one of the rooms, waking him up from a deep sleep. Confused, he looks back at the girl. She asks why he arrived so late. The protagonist asks Eun-jung if no one had dinner. Still tired, the girl replies that she thought it was a good idea to wait for him so they could all eat together. Realizing the situation, he tries to explain that she should have eaten. However, the girl says she wasn't hungry and he asks why. Her eyes fill with tears as she tells him that she had a nightmare where he died, and besides that, he wasn't answering his phone. While hugging him, she says she was very scared because she couldn't reach him. But the protagonist was fine and tried to comfort Eun-jung, who seemed extremely worried. Suddenly, another child appears, wearing his blue pajamas. The boy was also completely terrified because of his big brother's delay. Despite everything, now everyone could eat chicken together. The hero had promised that he would give more attention to the kids when he got back, but because of work, everything fell apart. The three sit around the table and start devouring the chicken like a happy family. Outside, it was already late, and the night dominated the environment. In bed, both children were already in a deep sleep. Meanwhile, the protagonist was fiddling with something on his phone. With the objective in hand, he was taking some photos and realized everything was ready. Now he just needed to register the product and wait for a potential buyer. Even so, he seemed a bit indecisive and observant. For him, it was a waste to sell only Karen's Blessing and Mountain Splitter. Slowly, his fingers approach the card, but he fails to acquire a new ability due to incompatibility with the user. Even so, he was willing to make a copy, but that didn't work either. At that moment, he realized he had no other option. Suddenly, he looks surprised as a message about core generation appears. The boy's head starts hurting instantly with the creation of a new function. According to the system, he gained additional points and new abilities. Without understanding anything, the noise started becoming louder and louder inside his mind. Carefully, he watches the loading of the core generation, which was at 1%. But he had no idea what that meant since he had never heard anything about it from Kichil Hyungnim. Even so, he seemed anxious to discover what he would find at the end of that loading. The energy starts spreading completely throughout his body. With a thoughtful expression, he reflects on the sensation he had when awakening. The color of his eyes changes to a bright blue, and he decides the best thing to do is check his status. The destroyed buildings seem abandoned and uninhabited. In the middle of the street, a vehicle crosses the city's debris. Inside the vehicle, the hero uses the system to input a search term. The original system is divided into two systems, the master system and the copy system. The master system is the central system responsible for the derivative systems spread across the dimension. The system is not awakened, but rather an independent entity. Meanwhile, the copy system is an awakened system that only works with one user, being able to copy all abilities and also capable of recommending them to each other and creating new ones. The copies applied to all life forms with a derivative system, but the protagonist seemed not to fully understand. While climbing a few more floors, he reflected on all that information, thinking that he could copy abilities from monsters. After walking a long path, he finally reached his destination. To recover his strength, he decided to drink some water. In the end, he believed that the information was really useful, reflecting on its functionality. Shortly after, he decides to open his status window. The user Choi Jun-hyuk, 25 years old, was in the class Copy Master and his core was at level 1 with some power increases. At that moment, he noticed some changes in the status window. The details on the screen listed his abilities, additional points, and attributes, and he also noticed the creation of a new status. With a smile on his face, Choi Jun-hyuk watches the activation of the All-Stars plus 100 option from the Twilight Bracelet, boosting his stats. He was happy with the status increase and curious to check the core. The recharge point was probably the amount that could be charged. In a moment of reflection, he thinks that the power consumption could mean that more than 20,000 could be used. If the bracelet options were added, he could produce everything with great efficiency. However, he knew that the most curious thing was that the stats were only at level 1. His hope was to believe that with the level increase, the stats would also grow. Suddenly, he hears a strange sound coming from the lower part of the building. His feet quickly move toward the edge of the building. At that moment, he notices something unusual and tries to draw attention to himself. Walking through the streets of the destroyed city was a powerful monster.